Welcome to part 3 of Scammell Stories, and in this video we're going to have a look at the characters that feature in the books. In the first instance, all the characters in the books are based on people that I've known in real life. To keep everything in perspective, all the stories are based around events that could possibly happen. This ensures that the stories are totally realistic. Obviously we have to have a garage proprietor, so we come to our first character, and his name is Marmaduke Entwistle Fotheringham. Please don't ask me where this name came from. I was trying to find an unusual name for the garage owner, and this name came to me one day. It sounded really good, so I wrote it down on a piece of paper before I forgot it. What we have here is the initial sketch that I did of him. Obviously, as the owner of the garage, he built the business from nothing, so everyone has total respect for him. I wanted a character that was totally eccentric, has a shocking memory, but at the same time has a heart of gold. He has fantastic knowledge and he is there to help everyone. I can recall managers who would tell you off for doing something incorrect and you were always going to be sacked, but you never were. A few minutes later they would then forget about the whole incident. They never held a grudge at all, and I wanted to incorporate this type of persona into his character. To keep with the nostalgic feel of the books, I can always recall the garage proprietors always wore a tie, a waistcoat and had a tweed jacket. It was something of a tradition for people to dress like this. You could really tell who was in charge and who owned the establishment. And not forgetting the flat cap, which was always a symbol of his authority. I also recall they always wore such shiny boots, and these were polished so well you could see your face in them. And for some reason they always wore corduroy pants. From what was my initial design, it resulted in the drawing that you see here, and this is Kev's interpretation of Fotheringham. We then move on to our next character, and this is Edwin, which we can see here. And Edwin is the driver of Excalibur, the pioneer, and this is the basic sketch I made of him. Edwin is always immaculate, no matter what he does. Even his overalls have creases in them, and you'll never see him without a tie. It's just part of him. He is based on people who are new that could do the dirtiest of jobs, but for some reason always remained immaculate, with not one single hair out of place. So what I tried to achieve was somebody who was good at everything he did, but at the same time made it so easy. However, I wanted the character to be such a nice person as well. He was never big-headed or bragged about what he can do, and he's very serious when he works. He just gets on with life and will help anybody he can. He's very fussy though, and to ensure this, he keeps his hands immaculately clean. He always wears gloves while he's working. So from the initial sketch there that we saw, this is how Kev interpreted Edwin in the Scammell Stories books. The third character that we come across, and this is my initial sketch of him once again, is Herbert. Herbert was quite a character to write for, and the total opposite of Edwin. He was actually great fun to develop, and I wanted this to reflect in his character. With Herbert I wanted to create a character that no matter how much he tries, is totally accident prone and is unable to keep clean. If somebody is going to fall into a hole full of mud or trip over, Herbert will be the one who does this. For Herbert, laces come undone, overalls rip and need patching, and he can never keep his hair tidy. Herbert by design has been made this way to show younger children that nothing is perfect in life. He always tries his best to do things right, but it never works out the way he planned. His best friend is Hercules, the Scammell explorer, and the two of them together make a great team. They're often in trouble with Mr. Fotheringham because of the mischief they become involved with, but he always forgives them as he knows they mean well. His name came from a friend of mine who used to refer to everybody as a right little Herbert. So that's from the initial sketch that I did, and this is Kev's interpretation of Herbert for the books. Obviously our Scammells form two of the main characters in our book. I could have chosen quite a few models of Scammells to feature in the books, but I decided to feature perhaps two of the most iconic vehicles ever to leave the factory at Talpitts Lane. Therefore I chose a Scammell Pioneer and a Scammell Explorer to be the recovery vehicles. Before I explain what the characteristics of each Scammell are, this short section shows you how I worked out the colour schemes for the Scammells. I wanted to make them very bright colour scheme, but also the colours would have to complement each other. What I did was photocopy quite a few line drawings of an Explorer, and I experimented with different colour schemes. I eventually found that a red chassis with red wheels, green body and a cab matched perfectly. Yellow mudguards offset everything perfectly as well. It took me over 15 attempts to ensure that everything matched, so what you see in the following drawings is the final result. So as you can see, this is Hercules from the front, and once again what we have is Hercules from the rear, and this is how we created the colour scheme. When Kev came to draw the Scammells, we actually had great difficulty in finding how to provide facial expressions. So this is an early illustration of how we tried to do it. So the question was, how do you make a Scammell show surprise, happiness, and it took a lot more effort than we actually imagined. The first step was on the Explorer, which is Hercules. We had to make him a Mark II, which you can see in the photograph here, instead of a Mark I, because we found out with the Mark II Scammell having a fixed cross member, we found out this was much easier to draw a mouth on. After many experiments, we finally decided that the headlights would become eyes of both Scammells. So this is the final version of Hercules that you can see here. Once again, we had to plan out the design of the Scammells in great detail. So we had to show Kev equipment layouts and also views from the rear of the vehicles to show him how mud flaps would be coloured, chevrons, and also what the rear of the Scammell Explorer looked like. So now we come to our two main characters in the books, which is obviously Excalibur, which you can see here, and this is the final version of Excalibur that you can see in the books. First of all, I named him after the legendary sword of King Arthur that is supposed to possess magical powers. What I wanted to create was a very wise character, somebody that would be there to be helped and guide everyone in the garage. A bit like everybody's favourite grandparent, really. But at the same time, he would pass on his wisdom and knowledge from everything that he'd learned. The character would be somebody you could turn to if you were having difficulty and would always provide the answer. What I wanted to achieve was to ensure that if young children could relate to this character, they knew they could always turn to somebody for help and guidance. Obviously, Excalibur is based on a Pioneer SV2S recovery vehicle. We saw an earlier sketch of Hercules a little bit later on the colour schemes. This is actually one of the first sketches I did of Hercules along with Herbert. So it just shows you a basic line drawn to get an outline and a feel of the character. I named Hercules after the Greek mythology hero that had great strength but also went on a series of adventures. And this is what I wanted to achieve when people read my books. So as soon as you open a page, you know you're coming on an adventure with us. Despite his huge strength, I wanted to make Hercules a little unsure of himself and nervous at times. He then relies totally on Herbert to reassure him and vice versa. The pair of them working together totally complement each other. And I wanted the character to be very friendly, but at the same time to be very, very innocent. The mistakes he makes are not really deliberate because he does things so innocently. So from that initial sketch, then we finished up, and this, as you can see, is the final version of Hercules, and this was Kev's interpretation of him. Well, that's the final part regarding the development of Scammell Stories, which I hope you've really enjoyed. For the future, what I'm hoping for is greater book sales, and then I can raise the finances for further books and adventures. What I'd really like would be for somebody to help me develop the concept much further and then take it to an animation stage, which I think would be absolutely fantastic. I'm absolutely convinced that Scammell Stories would make a brilliant children's TV series. So if you would like any further information, then please contact myself. You're more than welcome to email me or write to me. The address is on the website, and I would really look forward to hearing from you. Many thanks.